Hello, everyone. Welcome to the IPython Jupyter weekly development meeting for Tuesday, January 13th. And just a note to everyone out there on the internet, our regular meetings have moved to Tuesdays. We had some schedule changes. So the one that used to be on Thursday morning, 9:30 a.m. Pacific time, is now Tuesday morning. And we'll continue to have periodic meetings on Thursday as needed. So with that, let's and welcome everyone to 2015. So to our agenda, the first thing on the agenda is the question of an IPython blog. So I guess Thomas is not here. He put it down. Thoughts?
Thomas is behind me.
Oh, I kept looking.
No, he did. I think he's just, that's where his cursor is. I think you put it down. Right.
Did I?
Yeah.
Yes.
In response
to name next to it.
In response to someone else's, so the question came up on Gitter maybe or somewhere.
Some email thread
what
between
was
us.
that?
It was some email thread between us.
Okay. About having an IPython blog, and figured we would talk about it a bit, and I don't know, thoughts.
So I liked the idea that we'd have to dog food our own stuff on the notebook viewer. I mean, which we already do, but if we did the blog through that, then that's great. I mean, otherwise, I'm happy running Ghosts. John's been running it and enjoying it, but it seems like we should probably be using notebooks.
So actually, before we get to the how we would host it, let's step back to just the question of, do we want something else to maintain? Like, do we even want to do a blog?
I feel like we should.
We have tried in the past, like, saying that we will post news on Google Plus and similar things, and I don't think we're terribly good at actually posting stuff.
I mean, there is also the question of whether it's Jupyter or IPython. If it's Jupyter, we can probably have guest posts from Julia community, from PyScale community, from lots of things. And I think that most announcements that are on the mailing list should be on the blog. Like we are releasing, we should make on the blog, not on the mailing list. And all this kind of stuff, new contributors should be on the blog, like to be officialized and like findable by Google, because it's like Google can find things on the mailing list, but they are always really difficult to read, especially for new users who are not accustomed to mailing list archive.
So if you look at what happens with our mailing list threads when it's something interesting, it almost always gets posted to Reddit or Hacker News or whatever as the mailing list thread from like gmain.org, which of course is like a terrible format and you can't see the threading or anything else with it. I mean, you kind of can, but like Matthias is saying, it's not very new user friendly. The problem is you have to get into the practice of doing it.
Yeah.
And I think, so John has been blogging. I read all of his blog posts, and it was all about his own stuff about the text editor. The Poster? Yeah, Poster. And those were really interesting. And maybe they're just fine if you just have them on a standalone blog. But at the same time, like, I'm going to go ahead and blog, and I'm going to write about stuff. But I'd be happy to contribute it somewhere else. And, like, I'm already going to write. So if it exists, then I would be writing for it.
Maybe what we need is Planet Jupiter.
I'm just going to mute my mic now.
So one thing I did this week is start to look through sort of what we need to do to release 3.0, other than all the code stuff, thinking about NB Viewer, the websites. And I just did a quick look over our website, and there's a couple sections of our website that are basically synonymous with the place that things go to die. We have a page with videos, another with talks and presentations, another news page, and I'm hesitant for us to create another place for things to go die. At the same time, maybe a blog is like the right place for things to not die. Like, let's move everything over to that.
Yeah, well, we talked about killing the Sphinx website, what, 2 years ago now, and moving to whatever else, could be Pelican or any other static site generator du jour.
I think a good question is what prevents us from updating that. I personally don't want to touch Sphinx, and so I'm never going to touch the main site because it does not look like something fun to edit into. Whereas in authoring form for a blog, I can just write text and push it out. I don't have to like submit it over here, and I need to do all these things, and then I have to run something. Like, too many moving parts.
I'm working on having Travis building the site and pushing it automatically. I mean, the PR is open, so you hopefully
we did decide a couple of years ago that we were going to stop using Sphinx for the main site.
Yeah, but whatever. Once you have automatic deployment, you can change the websites. But one of the things that makes the IPython website really long to update is someone have to do it manually. And once it's just a PR and you merge and it deploys.
Yeah. So what's the workflow with Ghost? I've not used it, so.
I would think of it just like WordPress, that you log in as whatever your user is, write content, and then if you want to share the content, like have a preview of that content before it gets published to the wide web, you can have someone else who is an author on the same system review your work and what you have on there, and then you just click publish.
Oh, wow. So it's not like a Markdown based.
It is Markdown based, yeah.
Okay. So it's Markdown based, and but so actually, one thing that is starting to come up is that with the new grant, we are going to be hiring a half-time person at Cal Poly and at Berkeley. And Fernando and I were talking. I mean, the main thing they're going to be doing is more administrative stuff. But we were thinking about trying to hire people with writing skills and have them make one of their responsibilities to keep the web pages up to date, to, put current news, events, etc. And so these people will not be technical in any way, shape, or form. And so I do think there would be an advantage to having more of our content not be pull request driven. Although I suppose you can do pull requests these days on GitHub without using.
That's not to say that you couldn't make pull requests that were submissions that got brought into the blog itself.
Okay, so you can do that with Ghost.
Well, no, I mean like, as far as like if we wanted to accept external contributions, they can put them there. It's just we would have to move that content over.
Okay. So
I think we have some other solutions that could work, and where the notebook itself is contained in the platform. Nicola and Pelican has features to allow you write your post in an IPython notebook. I think it will be easier or I don't know, if we can check those possibilities. I think it will be superior or better than the Ghost one. They have those functionality available, and it has all the potential of a blogging engine. So I think we could. I think it's important to show we are writing in a notebook. So we use the MV viewer, which has some missing part, or we use a blogging engine supporting the notebooks. I think it will be great to take any of these two possibilities.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we're talking about the notebook as a format that you can use for writing blog posts, then it's if we're using something else for our own blog, it seems like people are going to point that out. quite loudly and frequently.
Yeah, well, I think it also depends on what you're writing about. Right? If you're writing news and events and things, the notebook's not a good format for that.
Yeah.
Basically, if it doesn't have code in it, the notebook's not a great choice.
Yeah. So one.
But I mean, I could well imagine that a blog we're writing could have quite a bit of code in it.
Yeah. So if we're planning to, if this is a blog where we're showing like, look at this cool thing, this is how you do something in IPython, then I think picking something where you can blog with the notebook is a good idea. If you're talking about just like, hey, where's your release?
Yeah. I mean,
I don't think it's important.
No, I agree with that, although I could imagine that sometimes we would want to actually show notebooky stuff. Like, I think that's possible. So one thing that we talked with Tim Clem from GitHub a few weeks ago, just basically, big picture things about the project. And one thing he asked was, or asked and said was, like, the notebook is the shining star of the project. Why not just have that be your website? I mean, he was actually thinking of something like a combination of NB Viewer and a live temp NB. And his thought was like, don't hide it from people. Like, show it immediately. Like, embrace that. And obviously, there's the dog fooding aspect. But from his perspective, it was more a question of the user experience of getting the notebook in front of people as quickly as possible, basically the second they hit the home page. And so I don't know, but so I think we should separate out the question of how we organize our different types of content from how the particular hosting technology. And I think one thing we probably need to think about for 3.0 is a little bit of refactoring of our web presence. I mean, I don't think we have time to do much, but I think starting to transition more stuff over to Jupyter and just cleaning up some of the stale content that we have is probably a good idea. I don't know, what...
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that will change in the next release, meaning not this one, is that the main landing place will be Jupyter, not IPython. So I think a lot of these ideas make sense as things to do with Jupyter.org, and IPython can, like, I think very few of these things would actually be on IPython, right?
Yeah.
So to me, a lot of these things are decidedly not things in between us and 3.0. Few, if any, of them are.
Yeah. Well, although I think with part of the reason I think we need to start to change some of this stuff is that with 3.0 we are claiming to people, non-Python people should be interested in the project and should want to install the notebook server and run with other kernels. And like right now, our install instructions on the website do not reflect that reality.
One of the problems is if we change the project name, we tell now people have to install IPython, and in one release we would tell, and now you have to install Jupyter, and it means that they won't auto-upgrade.
Right.
So I still think of IPython currently with the functionality of Jupyter, so it's still kind of IPython/Jupyter, and in next release it will be Jupyter/IPython. So people who know the IPython right now know that they will be able to use IPython with many projects. And in next release, which might be in 2 months, we don't know. You just want to do the split for 4.0 or 1.0, whatever, how you call it. Then it will really be Jupyter, and then we can advertise and do an install.
Well, and let me say it this way: with even the small, simple rebranding we've done already, people are going to start to see the Jupyter Notebook as Jupyter and go to Jupyter.org. And I'm fine with us having two websites that both reflect this transition in a helpful way, right now we don't have either website reflect any of this in a helpful way. And so, I mean, this is actually, I'm willing to work on the content side of this for the release. I mean, I feel like that, I don't mind doing some of that. Do we, and I think the first thing I would do is just basically make an outline of what content we want on the two websites, independent of hosting technology. Should I maybe start there, and then we can think about how that outline is reflected in the hosting technology choices that we'd make?
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we can do a fair amount of, we can do a certain amount of new work. I mean, what's the, I can't remember what the, I think we've just got a handwritten HTML page. Is that right? Is that what Jupyter.org is? Isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, I think we can do a fair amount of, you know, a couple new pages and some new content on Jupyter, and then on IPython. Just trim stale things and then add a few prominent links over to Jupyter, I guess.
And Kyle, do you think, I mean, even if the website itself is not a notebook, I think that having a very prominent link, right, like it's the first thing that you see, like try the notebook that goes to TempNB, like are we ready for that with 3.0 or?
Yep.
Okay.
I just have to configure it now for the, yeah.
Okay. And have we decided what the domain for TempNB will be?
I think we said the try.jupyter. We're just going to use the subdomain.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I have a totally another conversation around that. I don't know if I should bring it up now. I'll let that come up later.
Okay.
It's basically a spawning out of talking with Andrew made me realize some things and everything that they're currently building.
Okay. Sounds ominous.
It does. It will be.
Okay.
I'll put something at the bottom of the page. We probably won't even get to it.
Okay.
Okay. Next is PyData at Strata speakers. So we have a talk at Strata, and there is a separate session that the Strata organizers have asked NumFocused to organize another, basically a single day PyData mini conference workshop within Strata. So it's part of the main conference tutorial tracks. And I just wanted to see if anyone wants to go to Strata and give a tutorial or something about IPython. And the dates are, what is it, third week of February? Let me look up the exact dates.
February 17 to 20.
Yes.
I will be out of the country. So.
Okay. Any other takers? Well, think about it.
If nobody says anything, we're already there.
I'm not doing something
You
else.
mean Fernando.
You can do it.
At PyData, though. Oh, okay, I see.
Yeah, I don't.
So I could freely volunteer something if I want to.
You could freely volunteer. That would be
Okay.
happiness to everyone. I don't think. So, actually, here's a question. So the other thing we're talking about Strata with is to see if O'Reilly would give us a booth. Strata booths are really expensive. Will anyone be in town to help us man a booth? Or person a booth, I should say?
I will not.
Okay, you're not. Kyle, you'll be there. Matthias, maybe?
Probably.
Probably.
I'll probably be around.
Okay, Thomas, do you think you'll be in town?
February, yes, I assume so.
Okay. I I don't know about John. I'll have to ask John. He may. Kyle, if you're interested in doing a tutorial, John might be willing to do that with you. I'll ask him when he gets back to town. So. But anyway, if any of you wants to do something for PyData at Strata, just let me know, and I can hook you up with the right people.
Okay.
So just a short Trello usage thing. So we had started at the last in-person dev meetings. We created boards for each repo, and again, this is something that we used a little bit, but not much. When we talked with Tim Klen, he said that's just too many boards. Use one board for your entire team. I talked to Fernando this weekend. He said just go for it. So I have closed all of our other Trello boards, and now we just have one main Trello board, and I have a 3.0 column, and it's all the big picture stuff. It's not code level things. So for example, there is one Trello card for all code related things that basically says finish coding for 3.0. It's a lot of the, check NB viewer, update the website, things like that. So let's try to use it. Just see how it goes. I think. Yeah,
I think my only comment that I made to you earlier was that I wasn't sure who I could invite. So it was a lot easier for kind of like a side project that was going to be temporary to like add people on. So in this case, we have comp models as a board, or like the nature demo stuff was as a board because some of it was very task oriented, but
yeah,
issues on a repo seemed weird.
No, and that's.
So I hope that's okay still.
Oh no, absolutely. And we're like Fernando and I have a board for all the fundraising stuff, and so don't.
Oh, okay.
Don't feel like you shouldn't create other boards. I realize that sometimes there are sub teams where there's a lot of activity and a lot of tasks to track, and absolutely. But I think in terms of the sort of the main tracking of the project, the roadmap, big picture stuff for the entire project, just one board is fine for now, and let's just try that. I mean, I expect that there's definitely going to be other boards that pop up transiently for specific things like that, so that's totally fine. Usability testing. Kyle is...
So Christy's going to be here around now, so the timing worked out well. I posted the link, but she's not there. So I'm just going to move that down again, and we can talk about the next thing.
Okay. Right. So actually, I'm going to move the... So there's...
What are you moving?
Oh, I'm just looking. Okay, the next one is NB Extensions UI.
So Jürgen Hash, who works on the IPython contrib repo a lot, has made a notebook server extension which provides a nice UI for like enabling and disabling different notebook extensions, i.e. JavaScript front-end extensions. I think that's the only thing it works with anyway. It does look really nice. It's proper screenshots of things, buttons to activate and deactivate and things. He's done a little video of it in the pull request. I would definitely like to, at some point, integrate it into IPython. The question is, do we try and integrate that sooner and let development proceed on it as part of IPython, or do we let it develop separately for a while longer and integrate it post 3.x?
I would be inclined to the latter.
Yeah, and to me, there's two factors. One is that's a major bit of work to integrate it, But the second is that I think part of the main thing we have to figure out after we release 3.0, when we split all of our repos and packages, is how do all of our different projects make web assets, JavaScript, HTML, CSS, available to the notebook server, right? I mean, widgets are all of a sudden going to be a notebook extension from the perspective of JavaScript code. And we're going to have to invent something that makes all of that easy. And it's not clear to me that I just don't know what that's going to look like.
But there are separate concerns. There is the, like, you know, exposing stuff that the kernel needs in the front end, like widgets, and then there is stuff that is pure front end, independent of the kernel, things like, you know, citation plugins, that's independent of the kernel, that's just interacting with the document.
Well, but so, for example, it's not clear to me that we won't have separate projects that are pure JavaScript. Like, and this is something that's come up with Kyle and the O'Reilly stuff, in that they really want to just have access to like kernel.js, a very minimal set of JavaScript files, and I don't know. We may end up having Python packages that have no Python code in them, that are just static assets associated with something. I know that sounds ridiculous.
You think if it was a static asset, though, that you'd have it through Bower or NPM or something else?
I mean, and I don't mean to commit
Packaging
to
is exactly things that it's nominally good at.
Yeah, and I don't mean to commit to installing JavaScript through Python packages per se. But all I'm saying is the repo splitting may involve some components that are just pure JavaScript, and I think we want to. I think one of the hard tasks of the repo splitting is going to be to figure out, okay, we have some components that are just JavaScript, some that are Python and JavaScript, some that are HTML, CSS and JavaScript and Python, and also thinking about things like, well, what happens when Julia has a package that has HTML, CSS, and JavaScript? Like, I think, I don't know, I have no idea what the answer is going to be in this space. It just makes me a little hesitant to commit that strongly for 3.0. Again, it just seems like there's a lot of unknowns there.
I mean, I think the shape right now is okay for what Andrew and Arun are doing right now in accessing the kernel code. It's just that they have to include a lot of stuff that doesn't make sense. And I think they're just going to accept that as a warp for now, because they're using notebook assets in a way in which there is no notebook. And so that's where the strangeness comes from. This is the part that I said I would wait to talk on. So, yeah.
So by notebook assets, you mean they're using things like kernel.js?
Mm-hmm.
But
which requires the notebook events and all that, and so you have to listen for the events and everything and use them as if you had a notebook.
No, and this is, yeah, I don't know. I just don't know what it's going to look like.
It's actually really neat to connect to the kernels. So I took TempMB with like basically single cell, but now with really just taking our full kernels API and exposing is basically a way to spin up as many jobs as you want concurrent connections to, like in a totally ephemeral way, run the jobs and like have access to all of them at once. It's kind of hilarious, which kind of makes me go, I really should play with the parallel code, because it's probably what's really. But if somebody wanted to provide like a kernel service, like that just exposed kernels, then they could, right? And then if the front end was the Jupyter Drive stuff, like where's the rest of the pieces? Like, do we actually, like, where do we need them? I don't know. I think there's interesting stuff that can be built without the notebook.
Yeah.
We just expose the kernel somehow.
I just wanted to add that the note, even though we haven't agreed on the security stuff, the notebook does provide some potential to be more secure than just doing things in this free-form way would be.
Yeah. No, there is the security considerations of that. No, and I'm sure, I mean, obviously, part of the way that we want to scale as a project is to become more modular, to let other people reassemble our stuff in different ways. And the monolithic Python package we have is a problem, but I think also the monolithic JavaScript that we have is also, it makes it really difficult to remix and reuse, and it probably also means that the different parts of our JavaScript code are overly coupled than they need to be.
Actually, now that I think about it, maybe security is no better or worse without the notebook, since it's basically the responsibility of whoever's creating this kind of thing to make sure that whatever it gets back isn't going to attack this thing via the JavaScript you produce. So yeah, maybe it's no better or worse than the notebook, as long as people are aware of this possibility.
Oh, absolutely. Whoever's using those different things are going to have to worry about all the same stuff that we have to worry about.
Yeah. Kernel.js allows you to basically send and receive messages to the kernel. It doesn't dictate what happens with the results. So you could, for instance, ignore HTML and JavaScript output just fine.
Yes.
And everything is ignored by default. So. I
mean, I think, Thomas, I definitely think in the long run, we're going to have some sort of UI for managing extensions like this. There's no question. I mean, right now, the command line installation of extensions is an improvement, but compared to what a lot of users are going to want to deal with, it's too. And also, I mean, it's already coming up with Jupyter Hub, the question of sort of system-wide multi-user installations of NB extensions and so.
Yeah. Okay.
So it looks like
Christy
here. Hi, Christy.
So I kept moving the thing down. I'll move the A/B testing back up. Where are we here? Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Cool. Okay. So I had a conversation with Christy maybe a month or so ago about A/B testing. I guess I should introduce Christy better. So Christy's from Rackspace.
Hello.
Hi, Christy.
Oh, I guess I don't know if the sound went on there or not. Yeah. And Christy, if you could talk a little bit about yourself, or what you do and everything else.
I don't think we have sound from Christy. Christy is silent.
Sound's not working.
One problem that I had was that I had headphones, and they weren't being picked up because it's there were separate jacks for headphones and microphone, and I had to get some sort of combiner jack to split the output for my headphones. If it's like a desktop.
Kyle, can you read lips and translate for us?
She's writing on the chat in Google Hangout.
Oh.
Let me try leaving and coming back.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Intriguingly, if you type something and then leave quickly, it appears as though the person next to you has said it. I can see this being used to ill effect.
Yeah.
I'm telling her where to just find me physically, if it doesn't work.
No.
No, we're not hearing you.
Oh,
I can tell you said, can you hear me now? But only by lip reading. So she's just going to join you, Kyle? Now Kyle's muted.
Yes.
Okay.
Is Christy co-located in the same office as you, Kyle?
We're both in a gigantic building in San Antonio.
Okay.
So we can just do the next one.
Okay.
We'll come back.
So were you close enough to the game to hear the cheers last
There
night?
was a game.
I
Football.
don't know what you're talking about.
There's football here. I had no idea.
Do you mean soccer when you say
Is that the thing with the feet or the hands?
Never mind.
I think you mean hand egg.
Hand egg. Does that clarify?
Yeah, so customizing
NB Convert.
NB Convert and download.
So Andrew Jubianski of iHaskell is working on updating iHaskell to fit in with the new kernel spec model, so it's a part of, the Jupyter Notebook server rather than a separate standalone thing. And he's having trouble because he customizes NB Convert quite a bit, and he can't. We don't provide any ways to do that. There's various things that he kind of tweaks slightly, but the big thing is that he adds a new. Well, two big things are that the code in iHaskell notebooks is not. You can't just like stitch the code cells together and export it as a Haskell file. It needs some other transformation doing to it as well, and he adds an export format called literate Haskell, which is a Haskell community thing, like our Markdown or something that combines code and comments.
Is that just a template, or is there additional stuff beyond just the template?
No, you need custom code. You need something like completely, like it doesn't even completely know how to do it right now. You might even have to shell out to Pandoc or things like that.
And so are those like NB Convert extensions, like filters, or how is it implemented?
It would be a full exporter for NB Convert, like completely orthogonal to what we have.
So that means he has a new Python package.
How do you register it with NB Convert, and how do you expose it in the UI so that users can do file download as literate Haskell?
I mean, I know this is an ugly answer, but I think the way that NB Grader works is the best thing that exists today. Basically, it's a Python project that's a command line tool that basically just subclasses from the main NB Convert app and has its own templates and.
And how do you get the download button on the web app?
So that's absolutely
that's basically the question. How? Like, I guess if it needs to be written in Python, it's fine. You can have a Python package that's called Pandoc or everything. But the question is how do you extend on the front end and on the back end at the same time?
Yeah, and I think the question is how much changing and adding behavior to the notebook should be. Well, I guess there are a few levels of questions. How much should be available to the kernel? How much should the kernel be able to decide how the notebook changes? And I'm of the opinion very little. And then to a second degree, how much is it appropriate to customize the notebook behavior via pure configuration, and at what point does it make sense for it to be another entry point? At what point does it make sense for it to be, rather than IPython notebook, maybe it should be iHaskell notebook that doesn't add much. Because we've got NB extensions let you add JavaScript, server extensions let you add HTTP handlers, So if you've got your own Python call that does nbconvert to whatever else, that can be another handler, and then adding that to the download as list is a JavaScript call. So that would mean nb extension for JavaScript, server extension for adding the handler, and then you've got.
Yeah, I mean, the challenge right now is that I mean, the way the nbconvert REST API is set up.
But it doesn't have to use nbconvert. It doesn't have to use the nbconvert REST API at all. Like you just write. Exactly. This is my Python function that does nbconvert to whatever, loading arbitrary preprocessors and templates.
And that was my point, that the REST API is not sort of easily extensible to handle this, and it probably is just as easy to make it a separate server extension. But I think, I mean, let's change the question a little bit, and that is, let's say we were to come up with some new fancy NB convert exporter. Maybe someone has a Python project that's an EPUB exporter or something, and they say, how would we approach integration with something like that? And it's not one of our, it's not something we want to offer to all users, which maybe it would be.
Do we need a concept of nbconvert extensions? We have extensions for everything else.
I would.
As I wrote, I would do that as nbconvert -something package, and when you try to convert as something or something has to be defined, then nbconvert try to import this package.
Well, we have, so there is a, without importing it ahead of time. Yeah, I mean, you could do this, right? Setup tools entry points also solves this problem. And that's what it's there for. And honestly, it's as horrible as it is, it remains the best solution to this stuff in Python.
And if someone's customizing nbconvert, they're going to have Python code.
Yeah, no, I have no qualms about requiring Python for this.
Yeah, but I mean, not using it would basically amount to them simply just rewriting nbconvert, and at that point.
Yeah, and so, and putting it as something that's discoverable either by entry points or import convention. Well, it's a class, right? And we have lots of places where classes are configurable. Like you say, do something with this class, and you just give it the full import name of the class, and it works.
I mean, in principle, we could expose that through the REST API.
One of the questions is how do you list them?
Well, you can't, because we can't, unless you're using entry points. So if it's okay to have to tell the server about it, because right now the list of exporters is actually a dict, a module level dict in exporters or something. Your config file could say, here is this key maps to this class. So if it's acceptable for the config file to require explicitly telling the server about it, then it's just a matter of adding it to that dict. And it could even be defined, like it could be defined in the config file if you are inclined. But
I mean, I don't know. I think Andrew has a really good point that this is difficult right now.
Mhm.
And I mean, honestly, this is why NB Grader ended up as its own package that basically is a big subclass or a set of subclasses of the NB Convert app and other things. I think my answer, because of the complexity and the proximity to 3.0, the thing I probably would recommend to him right now is just build a command line thing that does this. I know it's not.
I mean, that's not.
I mean, it's not
something. I mean, it's not anything, right? It's.
No, but
that's already NB convert to custom template. That's already there.
And exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm saying for 3.0.
Yeah.
For 3.0, I think that's what's realistic.
Okay, so the answer to the question is no, basically.
Well,
I'm a bit concerned that, I feel like our big third-party kernel authors are looking at the new system we've designed to integrate everything into one framework, and I kind of get the feeling that Julia and Haskell are kind of saying, we're kind of happy doing our own thing separately from this.
No, and at the same time, like, I mean, this is sort of an MVP of this. It's not going to be feature complete, and I don't know. I
Yes, but as we remember with MVPs recently, they need to be the.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and that's. So what other kernels have custom NB convert things like this?
I don't think any of them.
Okay.
Haskell is the only one that I know of.
I mean, I know other kernels have other things, and we want to look at those other things as well. I guess
But it also plays into things like, Julia, want people to download and install iJulia, and for that to set up everything that they want. iHaskell at present, when you run iHaskell, it sets up an internal IPython installation separate from like any other IPython that you already have on your system.
I think that's fine. Like, so, and if he wants to have, at some point, if your level of customization of the front end, at some point, you're actually making another application rather than just configuring IPython, and it may be as simple as a very large IPython profile. Okay, we're ready to do the testing shortly.
Yeah, we should take it.
Yeah.
We need to keep talking about this, but let's take advantage of Christy being here and go on to the ability testing. But yeah, we can probably talk about this one as well with Fernando here tomorrow.
We waved because Brian asked to get her, and it was just easier to rotate the laptop.
Okay.
He actually made it right after the talk about football.
Okay.
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 Yeah.
Hi, everybody. My name is Christy Caranto, and I am the user experience lead for Rackspace's Developer Experience Program, which is primarily, I guess, the website right now. So I guess long story short is that Kyle and I started talking about y'all's site, some of what's happening in the Footer area. Kyle thought there was some opportunity maybe for us to try some different things, do a little bit of testing, which I'm very happy to collaborate with you guys on. And then of the notes that you took, it sounds like maybe we can begin a bit from there. So what I'll say is I'm here to kind of listen to you guys and see what you have in mind, offer any feedback I can right now, or alternatively run off and get answers and come back to you guys when I have them. So I'll turn it over to y'all. And if you have any questions for me to start, please feel free.
So has Kyle walked you through the different, I don't want to call them products, but the different things that we have where users are interacting on a regular basis? There's the live notebook. There's the different ways that notebook is deployed. TempNB, which Kyle has done, is one of them. There's NB Viewer. There's our websites. Is there anything else?
I mean, those are the basics. Yeah. So we talked about the notebook and we talked about the notebook viewer and kind of the flow for someone to get that from their local installation or wherever over to the notebook viewer and like how they're displaying it. And actually, when you guys were talking about NB Convert, I went ahead and just explained what NB Viewer really was, which was just NB Convert, which is what everybody was talking about for the Haskell stuff. So.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, there's those different websites basically that we have where there's a lot of user interaction and these things come up. Just I think one question we would have. So we've thought about doing some usability testing, not A/B testing, sort of a quantitative approach, but more the qualitative user testing where you give a small set of users a set of things to do and you watch and get feedback from them about that. Which of those two approaches do you think makes sense for us to start with?
Yeah, that's a good question. So it probably, if you have the time and resources to do so, the qualitative probably is the best place to start. But what I would say is you do that qualitative testing, you'd come up with some, and this is something where I could probably provide some assistance. So based on the results of that qualitative testing, come up with some proposed changes to the site, and that's when we dig into the quantitative. So we probably do A/B testing and see whether or not the ideas that we think are going to be better actually are in fact better.
Okay. So I talked. Fernando was not able to be here today, but I spent some time on Sunday talking to him about this, and he actually is working on a large project called KBase that takes the notebook and basically builds a custom website for doing genomics, bioinformatics type things with, and part of what they're doing right now is some user testing. And so Fernando is sort of, he leads IPython and Jupyter, but he's also involved in this other project. And what he was saying on Sunday is that with our upcoming release of IPython 3 in the next month, it would be great to have some small amount of user testing as part of our alpha and beta cycles, and we want to do this in as lightweight way as possible, just to start trying it out. And so, basically, his thought was let's write some user testing scripts, and then we definitely have people that we can have run through those scripts. Both, I've got some people here at the university who can do that. There's a ton of people in our community, users, who would be glad to help us user test things. And I think the question is, what's the right way to gather all this data from remote users? I mean, we could run the tests on TempNB. It's just a question of, how do we get the input back from them?
Yeah, so I'm going to give you kind of an off-the-cuff answer because I don't know a ton about exactly what you guys are doing and how you're doing it. So with that context being said, I would say that to some degree you'd want your qualitative testing to be proctored. You'd want to have someone kind of administering the test to talk users through what it is you want them to do next, to help users when they run up against something that they're either not expecting or something that just doesn't work well. It's a usability issue. You need someone there to say, hey, no problem, this is not your fault, don't keep forging ahead, you know, we're noting this as this is a usability issue on our part. And to come away from that with notes. Ideally also you'd be videotaping these sessions so that way you can refer back to them later and pick up any nuances that you didn't catch in the moment. And so it's not something that I've done in an automated way before. You absolutely can do it remotely though, using video software. Even Google Hangouts would be a way to do it. Does that help? Does that answer your question?
Ah, okay. So by proctored, you basically mean that there's a human who's basically running the test and the experiment, and it could be done through screen sharing remotely.
Exactly.
But it's something that you would record and take notes while that's going on.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And the way that I would do it is I would pick probably 4 or 5 tasks that you want the user to complete, so things that you think are important. Give them a real brief intro about here's what we're doing, and again, you want to really reiterate that we are not testing you, we're testing our application. There's nothing that you can do wrong here. This is purely just to gather information. Walk them through those steps, take notes on that. At the end of that, you walk away with kind of a synthesis of what you found from your sessions. And this you don't have to do a ton of these. So if you kind of harken back to Jacob Nielsen's work, small studies of even 5 to 7 users can still be valid for this type of research. You know, if you can do more, it would certainly be better. But I don't think you need to feel like you've got to do this with 50 different people. You could probably, if you had 10 or 15 people, that would be a lot.
Okay. And so when you write out a script that would be used in this context, what does it end up looking like? Like, actually, do you have any that you could share with us that so we could even see what? And part of it is for us to just assess how much work would this be, what's realistic for us to do in the next month.
Yep.
You think about releasing, and it may be that we have to start with only 3, something very, very small to just try out the process.
Yep.
So it would be helpful for us to sort of see just what it looks like.
You bet. Actually, Shanak, I worked with him to do something.
Oh, because you did that PhD one.
PhD one.
Okay.
So he's got an example of the script that we put together, and then he's also got examples of the videos that he took. So you could see actually the end result of both things, and I think that would give you a very clear idea of what it is you'd be doing.
And it's all for an open source project too,
yep.
So yeah.
Yeah, that would be extremely helpful. That would be really. That would be fantastic if we could get access to that.
Yeah,
real quick.
Hi, Kyle.
Hi.
And then what? I mean, Kyle had communicated that you're willing to help us in some way. What? We obviously don't want to make any assumptions about how much time you're willing to put into this. What ways do you think you are willing to help us?
Yeah, so yes, I am happy to help you, and I can be upfront about what I'm willing to do, or not willing, but what I'm able to do based on what I have going on in the moment. I'll say in the very short term, over the next 2 months, I'm booked pretty solid between 2 projects. So I can provide the consultation, guidance. I can pop into meetings exactly like we've done now, answer questions. I'm happy to review. So as you put your scripts together, I'm happy to review those just to make sure they follow the types of standard guidelines. That's stuff that I can do fairly easily. If you'd like help down the road as you start to gather the information with, for example, you get some feedback about an area of your application that's not working well, you want to try something new, you'd like some help wireframing a couple of different concepts, I would be willing to do that too. It just need to be probably a little bit later in the year, maybe in the March timeframe.
Yeah. No, I mean for the 3.0 release, honestly, it's going to happen very quick, and we're going to have to focus on a very small set of questions and tests that we want to run. Part of it is just for us to gain the experience and see what will it take for us to run these types of things regularly, and also this could, we're in the process right now of writing some grants for future funding, and so having this experience I think would really help us know what to ask for funding wise in the future. So.
Well, I'm very, very happy to help, and again, can pop in like this anytime you'd like me to, so please just let me know.
Okay. I think that's probably a good start for now. We'll update Fernando on this, and we can talk more about sort of what we want to try to do in the next bit here, and we'll be in touch. But thanks so much for coming to the meeting and being willing to help us with this. It's really fantastic.
It's sincerely my pleasure, and I'll look forward to talking to you guys again soon, hopefully.
Okay. Thanks so much, Christy.
Bye.
Thanks.
Chat with you later.
Okay. Oh, we lost Kester. The next thing is Kester.
He disappeared.
We can hop over to PRs until Kester shows up again. Unless Matthias wants to.
I mean, I haven't had much time with moving out and everything to work on Jupyter Drive, but there is not too.
Do you have you back, Kester? Maybe. Maybe not.
Because there are only a few issues left, mostly managing document on Jupyter Drive, unless we want to directly release a multi-content manager that is able to switch between Drive and Google Drive and local Drive and Notebook at the same time. And if we do that, we haven't sorted out yet what the UI will be like. Oh, he's back.
Hey.
Hey.
So I was just telling that we are like Jupyter Drive is mostly working. We still have some issues with new file and folder management, and that we haven't done yet the multi-drive content manager that is able to work both on Google Drive and on local hard drive. And we haven't sorted yet the UI if we make a multi-content manager. How do you switch between Google Drive and local hard drive, or how you display that to the user? And the question is, do we try to make a synced release of IPython 3.0 and Jupyter Drive at the same time, or do we like go on our own schedule and release 1 week, 2 weeks after?
So when would the release of Jupyter? When would the release of 3.0 be?
It's safe to say that it will be at some point in the future.
Before Half-Life 3.
Well, whose future?
Yeah, Earth will habitable.
Realistically,
well, let's not. Let's not commit ourselves.
I didn't say for humans.
I mean, realistically, we're looking at 2 to 4 weeks. I mean, we still have.
I would say 4 weeks at least.
Yeah, I mean, we just have what's the current issue count for 3.0? It was 100 yesterday basically. So and it's not. I think we're basically done with most of the big stuff, but there's just a ton of small stuff we have to do. So
yeah, we just really need to shift gears into finalizing.
Yeah.
So if it's 4 weeks, I think we can actually get multi-drive stuff done, because I actually have a branch which has that partially implemented. Matthias probably knows a lot more about sort of the optimal way to implement it, but I have something that sort of would work and probably could be modified to something that sort of nicely fits in and does things the IPython way.
Yeah. So obviously there's changes to the IPython side that need to be made to support that.
Probably, yeah. Like my version doesn't require that, but the typical workflow is that like if I do something, then Matthias will sort of refactor it so that the correct changes are made on the IPython side. That's right.
Okay. No, that.
I think it's minimal. We can anyway, if we need to, we can monkey patch the JavaScript, and because the content side manager on the kernel side is anyway configured, we can switch that also.
Yeah.
So they shouldn't need some big change on the IPython side. So just the only question, and do we want to make a release that have the two features, like publishing two packages at the same time, and say here is IPython, and we also have Google that sponsor us, and so we made the Google Drive extension? Or do we want to say, hey, here is IPython 3.0, and 2 weeks later, hey, we now have Google Drive integration?
Well, I mean, honestly, I don't think the release dates need to be the same exact day in Pacific time. But I think the important thing is that the changes that you guys need to be in IPython are in the IPython 3.0 release. That to me, I think that's important, and I think the timing of it is fine. Like I think if you guys can in the next 2 weeks get a pull request on IPython master that has that, from the marketing perspective, yes, it would be wonderful if they're the exact same day. But if it's a week later or 3 days later, I'm not sure that's really, yeah.
Okay, so I think it's something to aim for. Like, I think if we find that like we're really close to the multi-drive thing, but we're not quite there when 3 is released, then we can wait. But if everything's ready and like it's just visual issues that still always need work, then we should probably just release it.
Yeah. No, but I think this will be really nice, and also part of it is just to demonstrate to Google that this is moving forward and we're having success, and that's.
Yeah, I think it's great to have something concrete like this and something that people can use already, and like it'll teach us about like the next steps forwards.
No, that's very, very cool. It's fantastic. So, okay, are there other things with the Google Drive integration we need to talk about, or is that?
I don't have so the one thing I had asked about with was I know Kyle was doing some experiments, and I was just curious like whether everything had worked so far.
Yeah, so I connected Jupyter Drive up with TempNB, but I mean really just that means installing Jupyter Drive for whatever notebook is inside the container, and that works perfectly. And that's it. I mean, it just had to have the right settings in the JavaScript to know what host it was on, right?
Yeah.
But that was clean and easy. I'm not shipping it though because like,
Sure.
I'm not going to put it up on the web.
No. I that's why I wrote experiment in the agenda, just to be clear. No, of course, that's going to need more work. I just really was curious that everything actually worked. It's good that it did, because you say it was that simple, but there's plenty of things that sometimes break.
So as a user, installation was really easy. Provided that I had to change those tokens, which I haven't followed well enough, and I never provided the screenshots for me setting it up in the Cloud Console. But did you make it parameterizable for what the?
Not yet.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Matthias has been working on like general configuration and cleaning that up, so that when we have like a configuration system that's good, then we can make it configurable. Right now, it's but thanks for helping with setting up the client ID, because that now we at least have our own client ID.
Yeah, this is great.
Yay.
Okay, so that. So how long do we want to go? I mean, so I should say, Fernando, or I already mentioned, Fernando wants to have another meeting tomorrow that he can make.
What does he specifically want to cover tomorrow?
I think more of the release planning stuff.
Okay.
And yeah, there's just a. So we could keep going. I have another meeting at 11, and I probably have to leave at 5 of. So obviously, you guys can keep going a little if you want, but
we have design discussion, so we can continue for hours.
Do we want to tackle a few of the simple ones that we have?
We can make a quick recap of the issue.
So older. Let's look at the older PRs listed there.
Sure.
And Brian, really 3.0. Again, I wasn't aggressive at bumping things to 4.0 yet, and so what? Looking at 6884, ensure commands needed for PDF are installed on the path. Thomas?
Yeah, I think this was almost ready. It just needed a minor fix, and the contributor seems to have vanished.
Okay.
So I think Thomas suggested a small patch for compatibility, and I think we can just take this PR and apply that change and merge it. It's a very small PR.
Okay, so 3.0 is fine for this.
Yeah, if we want to.
But by 3.0, I mean it's not critical for 3.0. It's a random issue. It should be tagged like as soon as possible, but not with a specific. For me, what is tagged 3.0 is really like you want it in 3.0. It should be there. So 3.0, if this one is not in 3.0, it's fine. You can release.
Yeah, I would interpret it kind of in the opposite way, that things marked for 3.0 is basically everything that might be in 3.0, and you only bump it from 3.0 once we've decided that it definitely won't be.
Yeah, I think, and part of it is
like I agree in principle. Like if we're all done and this one's still outstanding, I would be fine bumping it, but I wouldn't bump it until then.
And part of it is that the milestones meanings evolve as we get closer to the release date.
Yeah.
And I'm fine. Okay, so we can leave this one as 3.0. And there's a small patch we have to add before it can be merged.
Yeah, I think it's just something. Yeah, it's shutl.which, which isn't available on Python 2, and we have our own find command. So I think that was all that needed to happen before merging.
Okay, I added a comment about that. Needed. Okay, 6714 cursor start end for the console.
Yeah, it's read line stuff for the ZMQ front end.
Yeah. I have a vague feeling that this one just needs to wait until we redesigned the completion messages so that it sends the whole buffer instead of just the last token.
Yeah.
And I think we need to redesign how completion works in the core so that we're actually using all of that. At present, we just find the last token and then complete based on that.
Okay, so should we just say we're going to close this one for now because there's a bigger amount of refactoring that has to happen?
Is this PR an improvement just as it is, even if it doesn't fully solve anything? Is it an improvement? Like, what behavior does it change, and is it in a positive direction?
I don't remember. He was changing a couple of...
Because it's right now the PR is a pretty small patch in one function.
He was changing a few things, and some of the things he was doing, like, he was only testing them completing on a single token, and they would go wrong if you completed a token in a line with more than one token. And I can't remember where this one got to.
Okay, so maybe we just need to see what the state of the patch is. But
yeah,
I would say if it improves things, I would be fine. Just saying, this is an incremental improvement. Let's merge it and move on and do the refactor. I do think that the big refactoring how the stuff works is a future project.
Okay, so I'm also fine with that, adding a note to the pull request. Talked about this at the dev meeting. If it's an incremental improvement, we are fine merging it after review. And then I'll change it from need decision to needs review.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The next one's a widget one.
Let's wait till John is here.
Okay.
Note added to PR. And then what's 5829?
It's keyboard events on the toolbar.
Yeah, so the question is whether or not we disable our own keyboard handling when the toolbar and or menu bar is focused. And originally I was -1. I don't feel strongly -1 on this anymore.
This is an issue, not a PR.
Yes, no, I'm sorry. I think, yeah, they're in the hackpad. It's listed as PRs/issues.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I would be fine with that. I would also be fine with if there isn't a PR by the time we're ready for 3.0, leaving it as is.
Okay.
I'm not one of the hate the mouse people that gets really offended when keyboard shortcuts stop working because something is focused. I think that would be the sort of user who would be most troubled by inappropriate disabling or overzealous disabling of keyboard events. But
yeah, I do think, at least for the notebook page, we don't ever want to get into a situation where neither command mode nor edit mode works.
Well, so there's...
Well...
Yeah, but you can be in command mode, you can be in either mode and have no keyboard shortcuts, right? Because if the cursor is in, for instance, the text area on the widget, you're in command mode, but all keyboard shortcuts are disabled.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And this is basically, this is applying that to the menu bar and the cell toolbar.
Yeah. Honestly, you know what we might want to just do is say, if someone wants to create a pull request that implements this, we'll just try it out, see how bad it is.
Yeah, and I mean the patch, as is in the very end of the last comment on that, it is just one function call with two selectors to do that. Or he put it on individual elements, but we could put it on.
Okay.
Yeah, you put it on the menu bar container or the. So if we want to give it a try, we can. I suspect that the menu bar often has focus, or I suspect we don't want to do it on the menu bar because the menu bar doesn't have any text areas and it never will. But the toolbar,
yes,
can.
Okay, so I added a note about that, about just trying it. We can leave it as 3.0, but I'm fine if it gets bumped to 4 eventually.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you want to talk about a little bit? Oh, you've got a meeting. Did you want to mention that tagging stuff? Or?
Oh, sure. That's quick. So this weekend I spent a lot of time doing triage, and I've done some organization of the labels. So I've normalized our naming scheme to lowercase with dashes, which was sort of the most common syntax we were using. Both Min and I are thinking about getting rid of the priority labels. We have prio high, prio blocker, prio medium, prio low, and most of us pretty much ignore those.
Yeah.
The question is, do we just get rid of all of them, or do we leave like a single like important tag?
It seems like milestones are bigger because it's like on or off for a developer. Like you're either working it or you're not. The only thing that I think is friendly beyond that, though, is to let a new user know what might be approachable if they want to start coming in. So what we don't have an opinion on is if people were using prio that weren't us. We also have the sprint-friendly tag for that. So I think if we just get rid of them, people would just have to adapt to a new filter if they were using them.
Yeah. So. Is anyone opposed to us getting rid of all the priority tags?
No.
Okay. And do we want a single like important tag or high priority tag, or just go? Or do we just ignore those things anyway?
I think it's kind of useful, at least in theory, to have high priority things. In practice, for the most part, high priority is user equals f Perez.
No, exactly. He's the one that tends to add things as high priority.
So
So let's have an f Perez tag.
Yeah, I think that's what the tag is.
Yeah. I would. Yeah, either all of them or all but one. Because it's kind of nice to skim and say, oh, this one's important. Maybe I should work on it first.
Okay.
But
so how about let's have a single important tag.
Sure, and don't make it red.
Okay. So another is we have quick fix and sprint friendly tags, and pretty much we use them all always together. And I'm thinking
I don't think that's true.
It is very common for us to use here. Let's. Issues. Label. Quick fix.
I don't know. I haven't put either of these on anything in a long time, so yeah, they look pretty much the same now.
Yeah. So
there are lots of quick fixes that are not sprint friendly. I don't think there are any sprint friendly that are not quick fixes.
Yeah.
And because I don't think we necessarily need them both, but I think we can get rid of quick fix.
Okay. Okay. I'm fine with that.
Yeah, it was mainly marking it. This is small.
Okay. And then 2 questions about bugs and regressions. Right now we have 3 different type tags: type bug, type enhancement, and type refactor. The only one that we use regularly is the type bug. The enhancement and the refactor, most of us don't really use it very often. Occasionally it'll happen. I'm thinking simplification. So we just have one tag for types, and it's bug. Everything else is some combination of enhancement, refactor, and...
Sure.
Okay. Move to just bug. And then do we feel like it's important to have regression separate from bug, as we do now?
I don't think it's important, but it's a little bit of extra shame.
Okay.
That a bug that... Right, if we... Shame is a powerful motivator for me.
Well, actually, do we want a shame tag then?
We want the means fault.
Yes, the bugs that I fix the fastest are the ones when they're reported, I know exactly why, and it's my fault. Those are the ones.
Those give me two.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't think we really need it, but it does provide a little bit of it's fixing things that used to work.
Yes. No.
Is a little bit.
Okay. I'm fine leaving both. And then the last one is that eventually we're going to have to come up with an automated way of transitioning issues to our different repos after the repo split.
Yeah.
And I propose one way that we get ready for that is that we transition our existing tags, such as notebook, NB-convert, etc., to repo-notebook, repo-NB-convert.
What does the repo dash get you?
It's an easy way for us to say every issue moving forward needs to have a repo-something tag.
Okay.
Basically, that's an indicator that is going to be auto-moved somewhere else in the future.
Yeah, and I guess, and from the drop-down, it'll mean they'll be grouped up together alphabetically.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Any other?
I have no problem with that.
Okay. So I think that's it. I've got to run.
Do we really need to move them as we can close issues cross-repository?
Oh, I don't know about that stuff.
I'm just saying because moving often means that people will comment and we will have to lock all issues and add a comment that you need to move somewhere else.
Yeah, I don't know how we're going to do that. I really don't. But I feel like this will at least give us the handles that we can make those decisions and transition things automatically if we need to.
All right. In order for completeness in the transition period, are we going to have a repo IPython tag? Basically, the question is, how do you know it's correct? How do you know that something without a repo tag is correctly?
Yes. Okay. Yeah. No, we need. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Dev null, says Matthias. All right. I do have to run though. We can finish some of this tomorrow. I think we're aiming for 2 o'clock tomorrow, but we'll confirm with Fernando and everyone. So, all right. Thanks everyone. See you later. Bye. Yep.
All right. I think we can get back to work.
Bye-bye.
I had one thing that was at the end, but
Yeah. What was that?
so this could be more like history of the project. I'm not sure if you guys had asked about this before, but links within the JSON responses in the API, like an href.
Oh yeah. No, I've thought about this.
Yeah. So this would be really helpful for Andrew and folks, especially if it was dealing with like temp and B, because then they know the path that was exposed on, and they can consume it in like a navigable form.
Yeah, I think we should do this. I'm not sure we should do this for 3.
Okay.
Yeah, because there's a lot of URL composition that we do.
Yeah, that's fine. I read a whole bunch about
JavaScript.
it. I wasn't sure.
Well, there's a lot of URL composition that we do in the browser that that it would be really nice to do on the server side instead. I think it would be less bug prone to kind of consolidate that stuff.
It wouldn't be JavaScript string composition.
Yeah, with the URL encoding, like this is Unicode and this is an escaped thing, and getting all of that correct is complicated.
Okay, so that could be in the future then, and that's
yeah. I definitely think we should do this. I think it's not. Well, I don't know. I guess we could start adding the links, but I wouldn't, because this stuff is so fiddly. I wouldn't start migrating our JavaScript to use it.
Mm-hmm. So what I was
because
thinking
of that, I'm not sure we would really get it tested. So I think, kind of the question is, should we get a preliminary version of this and not use it in IPython? That is,
yeah.
Or should we wait until we're actually going to use it to do it, in which case we'll be more reliable to get it right and keep it right.
Okay. So I guess I'll just post an issue then. I brought it up here in case it was discussed before.
I've written an issue in my head. I'm not sure if I actually opened it on the
I'll write the issue and then you can comment there.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Bye,
Bye, Internet.